Bonjour à tous, dans cette vidéo, je vais partager avec vous un training que j'ai réalisé avec James McIntosh. Alors James, je l'ai rencontré ici en Australie par l'intermédiaire de Jordan Chalot, que j'ai déjà présenté sur cette chaîne. Si vous ne savez pas qui est Jordan, je vous posterai les vidéos juste ici pour que vous alliez les regarder. Et en fait, James a été une super rencontre et on essaye de se voir de manière régulière. Il travaille également pour Jordan dans le cadre de leur formation en ligne qui s'appelle Prescript. James est également un coach en ligne. Il coach aussi en one-to-one ici à Sydney. Il a un gym dans son garage où il fait venir ses clients et il se déplace également dans des gyms. Alors pourquoi je voulais vous présenter James? Parce que c'est quelqu'un qui a beaucoup d'expérience. Il a été compétiteur en powerlifting ainsi qu'en bodybuilding. Et dans cette vidéo, je vais faire une petite interview où il va expliquer rapidement son parcours, ce qu'il fait aujourd'hui et comment il approche la musculation et les sports de force suite à son expérience. C'est quelqu'un qui n'a pas encore beaucoup de visibilité, mais je suis certain qu'il va grossir dans cette industrie du fitness parce que je pense qu'il a beaucoup à apporter et c'est la raison pour laquelle je vous le présente, parce que je pense qu'il y a vraiment des informations très intéressantes à tirer de son expérience, de son expertise et de comment il approche ce sport. Si vous avez la chance de parler anglais, je vous invite à lui poser des questions sur son Instagram. Je le posterai juste ici. Je suis sûr qu'il sera extrêmement content de vous aider et de répondre à ceux qui ont des interrogations ou qui veulent apprendre avec James. J'espère que ce training et que cette petite conversation vous plairont. Si vous avez des questions vis-à-vis de cette vidéo, n'hésitez pas à les poster en commentaire et je me ferai un plaisir d'y répondre. Lâchez un pouce bleu, ça fait toujours plaisir et on se retrouve juste après.
I just wanna feel free, and I just wanna be me. Yeah, I just wanna go so crazy. I just wanna be a freak. Yeah, I just wanna rise to the top. Yeah, I just wanna go reach the peak. So I've been really well focused on success. Hey, y'all will see. Yeah, you won't see that I will get it. Cause I'm really focused, man. I make it with the rap and I just follow my path. I just follow my passion. To me, this is what's precious. Yeah, in my soul, man, I can feel it. So every single verse, man, I just gotta go and kill it, man. I gotta be the kid. I could be the guy taking you wild. I could be the villain, but good as a kid. Lately I'm painting my path on my way. Yeah, I got no time that I can waste. So I've been sitting in the space. Yeah, making rest every day, man. You know that I go insane. Yeah, I hit you with a bullet to the brain. Let us stop first, cause we going insane.
Bonjour à tous, donc on vient juste de vous faire un petit entraînement avec James et je vais vous présenter James, enfin il va se présenter lui-même, je mettrai une traduction pour ceux qui ne parlent pas anglais et ensuite on va parler de différents sujets, vous pourrez kiffer un petit peu avec nous et on vous montrera en plus des images du training pour que vous compreniez un petit peu ce qu'on a fait aujourd'hui. So James, thank you for taking me through a workout. Can you maybe present yourself a bit and like where you come from, who you are? What is kind of your journey into like strength training? And I'm going to give you the mic now. I know it looks a bit stupid, but that's how we're going to do because there's a lot of noise here, so we're just covering up basically.
Okay. There you go. Yeah, so my name's James. But look at you, the camera, bro. What do you want?
No, just.
So basically, I come from South Africa. I was involved in powerlifting sports and pursuit of strength in South Africa. And unfortunately, with that journey, I landed up getting quite badly injured and struggling through that injury and that hardships around that injury. So it really evolved my coaching and evolved my mindset around working with people who struggle with those types of injuries or struggles.
Me and my
shoulder. Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, that's been the unique thing for me, and that within that it forced me to pursue looking outside of my current education to try and better myself and really upskill myself to be able to give people the best coaching service that I could. And that's kind of where I fell into Prescript, and with Jordan.
What happened initially with your...
So initially I had torn a labrum in my left hip. I had that repaired just after going to Commonwealth. So I went to Commonwealth in 2015, had that repaired. That surgery failed. Had a second repair to try and fix what had happened. Unfortunately, due to that surgery, I had what's called AV necrosis of the head of femur. So that's basically lack of blood flow to the head of femur, and it basically dies off. So due to that, I had to have a full hip replacement at the age of 23, which was a thing to go through. Everything did well. Like, I went through my rehab, and that was probably the toughest part about it, is trying to find practitioners and people who could understand like what I was going through at that age, because it was unheard of, it was unknown of, it just wasn't something that any strength coach had actually dealt with. And 2 years after that, I went for my checkup, everything was feeling good, and they turned around and said, your body's rejected the implant. So I then went through the whole process again of having a second hip replacement, the rehab, and it was kind of at that time like the light bulbs started emerging. It's like, well, clearly what I'm doing with these practitioners is incorrect. And I started chasing or pursuing that, like, where can I get better information? Like, more people must know about this. There must be some form of, work or some form of programming around this that I could implement. And that's...
The issue that you were having is basically the doctors can help you to get back to being healthy and working, but what you want is to be performing, right? And that was kind of your issue in the journey, which is what I've been struggling to, is like, yeah, I can get back to living a normal life, but we don't really want to have a normal life. We want to push the envelope, right?
No, we don't want normal. I don't want to be average. I don't want to be the average person. I want to be pursuing like performance. Like that was the goal at the time. And part of that is it's realigned my coaching abilities to like the average Joe. Performance for them could be literally being able to tie their shoelace. And it's people like who are in constant pain or are working around that excessive amount of pain that need that extra attention. They need that thought process behind like their programming. It has to be so structured. It has to take into account as many variables as possible, because like that's going to get them back to performance, and performance is health at that stage. So yeah,
Based on the individual.
Based on the individual, and that's it. It's none of this template bullshit. Like, that's not going to work for your shoulder. Like, it won't. I have to be specific in terms of that. So that led me down the path of Jordan Shallow and Prescript, and I was just lucky enough to just connect with them, and I'm in the position now that I help lecture with them. I take labs once a week with them.
So this is actually how I was introduced to James. So it was through Jordan Shallow, and now I'm actually seeing James every week on what they call the labs. So when you follow the Prescript course, it's like every week you have the opportunity to have 3 labs right now. 4 labs. So, and you discuss directly with James, who's part of it and who's helping the students to understand the knowledge and how to implement it in programming and how to work with their issues or the issues of their clients. So it's actually tremendous information, because you can directly exchange with professionals and people who have so much experience. You also have like Jordan Junta, Dr. Jordan Shallow, and Killian Hamilton, who are all amazing coaches. And sorry, I'm going to let you speak a bit more.
But that's exactly it. I think the process behind, or the thought process behind the labs was for exactly that, is to have an open discussion with all types of clinicians, practitioners, and sit in one place and either hash out like what we've learned in the previous lecture, and or like apply that to like clients at the time, or go through like how we can actually take the concepts that we are learning and start to...
The link between theory and practice.
Exactly, that's the link. It's like taking it from paper and putting it into the person. It's the skin in the game, and that's exactly what it is. So, luckily enough, I've met you from that, and it's just been it's just grown out of that. It's yeah, I'm lucky. I'm I'm privileged to get to like talk with you and like all the other coaches and clinicians that we get to speak to every week. It makes my day, and it makes...
It's an insane network.
Yeah, exactly. It's an insane network from that perspective, and I can always reach out to you if like there's a problem, or I can reach out to like clinicians that I know if it's more clinic-based questions, and it's just created a community amongst these Prescript coaches that's just, it's second to none. I don't know any other environment that I would want to kind of work in and have the privilege of working with people from.
And you know, like with the current situation, everything is kind of moving online, and we were discussing that this morning about there is some limit in working online, but I think that this concept of Prescript has kind of broken a bit the limits that people had initially, because we work with video now. We have so much technology that we actually can implement and learn digitally and through online, and still be able to implement it with our clients, which could be face to face or online. And you do both, right?
Yeah. So that's it. Right now, I kind of take a small amount of personalized face to face clients, and that's more like rehabilitation based, or people that are looking for performance based, that have severe injuries. And then my onlines are pretty much in the same space. They've all come to me out of some form of necessity to get out of pain. And I think, you know, coming from my injury and coming from my own hardship, I'm able to identify with it and actually...
You know pain.
Yeah, trust me, I know pain.
That story you were telling me about So James was telling me a story about when he was prepping for bodybuilding competition, right? When you were squatting with the...
The Internox. No, that was Commonwealth.
Okay, explain that. Just to like
so
so people know.
Yeah, so stupidly, and I don't recommend this ever, is so there's a gas called Entonox, and it's basically an analgesic gas. So it's, I think in Australia they call it the green whistle. I don't know what they call it in France. It's a little, you take the hit of the gas.
I think there was a video of Callum Van Moger when he...
Yeah.
He was
So
like
that's exactly it. So
that's
that's the video, and he takes that green thing. That's it. So I had it in a gas canister.
He's a big dude, huh?
Yeah, he's a big dude. So I used to take that, and it used to be an orange canister, and I put it next to the bench, and I'd load up the bar, and it'd be like 60, and like you know, an air squat would hurt me. Like that's the amount of pain it was, and I'd take a hit of the Internox, the gas, and I'd kind of like stumble over to the rack, and I'd like get under, and I'd do like my double, maybe a triple, maybe even a single, and I'd rack it, and then I'd go and sit down and like come down off the high of this Internox, and eventually build up to my working weight, and I did that for 4 months of prep, like every day type scenario, every second day when I was squatting. And it's
the thing is, like, obviously we're not recommending this, but why I'm talking about that is because of this experience that you got, you understand that this is a wrong approach, because you didn't have solutions at the time, right? You thought like, this is my only solution to get to where I want to go, but it's not.
Yeah, and I don't recommend it, and it's not the solution, but at the time it's like no one would give me a solution. So I was like, well, I'm going to go out and find this out. I found out that that's the wrong thing to do, and you know, from
now you know more,
but
right?
now I know a hell of a lot more, and like I look back at it and I'm like, I could have done so much better. I just wish that there was this knowledge, and I think we've all said that in the fitness industry, you know, like if I knew now what I knew, well, if I knew back then what I knew now, it's like I would be a completely different person.
But it makes us better
Coaches.
helpers to other people.
So that's exactly it. It's I think as a coach, you can't just be a textbook approach. Like you have to have personally gone through whatever it is. If you prep for a show, you've gone through injuries, you know, everything from that perspective has to be self-taught in a way, and that's the skin in the game. That's what I'm good at. I'm good at programming around injuries. I'm good at the mindset that comes into it. And 9 out of 10 times, that's the biggest thing that you got to start working on. It's like you've come from performance. You've come from being able to squat 250 for a single, and like you can't do an air squat. Like that messes with your mind. As an athlete, like you sit there and you're like, I can't tie my shoelace, but I could squat like a month ago. Like this makes no sense. And you know, equating that into the general pop or general public from that side is like, we understand like pain is one of the biggest things that most people live with. Like it's that everyone has some form of back pain. Like when you start training, I don't care who you are, like that myth of like you start training, you feel great and all that. Like I haven't felt that in years. I don't know about you. It's like I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, my legs are sore from yesterday. Like I know what I've done. So it's you know, it's working around that and being reactive towards what's going on in terms of that person, and making sure that there's progression in performance from that, whether performance is health, you know, squatting again, being able to walk with your kids or play with your kids, like that to me is what you got to strive for as a coach, to be able to better people.
Yeah, definitely that's something that has evolved also with me, because before I was only driven by I want to be as aesthetic as I can, and then you're like, yeah, it's good to be aesthetic, but I also don't want to be in pain all the rest of the time when I'm outside of the gym. And this is why my approach has changed, because it has pushed me to be like, wait, there's something that is not okay. Like, there must be other solutions for you to still be performant, but kind of understand stuff that is going to help you to also be like having the best life you can outside of the gym. Because initially that's even why we started, right? We didn't start to be like broken outside of the gym. So I think this is why you have such added value, and why it's so important, I think, for courses like Prescript to exist. And in Beijing, we also have like all the chapter about injury management, about, you know, all the pathologies that you can like run into by doing strength sport and bodybuilding and powerlifting and everything. But, well, if you don't know about Prescript, I'll put the links. That's where you can like find James. You can also find James like on his Instagram. Yeah. If you want to contact James, they can contact you through your Instagram. So don't hesitate. Thank you so much for taking the time to train me around, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, see you soon. Thanks, bro.
Voilà, j'espère que cette vidéo vous a plu. Si c'est le cas, abonnez-vous, appuyez sur la cloche des notifications pour savoir quand je sors une prochaine vidéo. Lâchez un commentaire si vous avez des questions, et moi je vous retrouve dans la prochaine. Ciao!